Hey everyone, it's Miss Mayorga. Here is another video. In today's video, we're going to be going over Lesson 4, Unit 3, Lesson 4. So before we get started, make sure that you are logged into Code Studio and you have Lesson 4 open. And if you need to, you can have the notebook open. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So a central question for this lesson is, how can we use parameters to give the computer more specific instructions? Our learning objectives will be, one will be to use and reason about drawing commands with multiple parameters. In our previous lesson, we looked at rectangle and ellipse blocks where we only looked at two parameters, two properties, x and y, to determine the position. In this lesson, we're going to be looking at rectangle and ellipse with four parameters, x, y, w, and h. All right. For our lesson, we're going to be completing bubbles 1 through 8. 8 will be graded. In bubble 7, you'll get to choose one of the activities to complete. And bubble 9 will be an optional challenge. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. Lesson 4 and bubble 1. This is just the overview. New code that we're going to learn. We can go ahead and move on to the next bubble. Bubble 2. I'm going to try and fit this all in one video because it's a pretty short lesson, but sometimes I can talk too much and it ends up taking two parts. But I'm going to try to keep it in one part. All right, rectangle size. These rectangle blocks have two more parameters that you can use to control the size. Notice that the no stroke block turns off the stroke or border for shapes. Excuse me. Do this. Look at the code and try to figure out how the last two inputs in rectangle work. Change the numbers in the second rectangle to make the red rectangle longer than the blue. So let's go ahead and check it out. We've got two rectangles, the blue and the red. Each of them have four parameters, x, y, that's the position, w, both of them have the same width, so the width is the same for both, and a height, 200 for the blue and 150 for the red. As you can see, 200 is greater than 150, so the blue is taller. Our task is to change the number for the red rectangle to make it longer than the blue rectangle. So go ahead and pause the video. Which of these four parameters, x, y, w, h, do you need to change, and what should you change it to? Okay, hopefully you said you need to change the height of the rectangle. And since the blue rectangle has a height of 200, you want a height that's greater than 200. For example, 250. Ta-da! All right, pretty simple. Let's go ahead and continue on to bubble 3. All right, do this. Write code that makes an orange ellipse behind the green one. Don't worry about the exact size as long as the green ellipse is entirely inside the orange one. So we've got our green ellipse and we're trying to add a code to make an orange ellipse behind. What blocks do you need? All right, hopefully you said fill color, right? We need to tell the computer we need to draw an orange ellipse, so we need to change the color. The question is, where does this block go? Does it go before the green ellipse or after the green ellipse? Hopefully you said before, right? We need to think about order. The orange ellipse is the bottom layer of the picture, and then the green ellipse is drawn on top. So we need to draw the orange ellipse first. Go ahead and drag that fill color to the top. You need to change that to orange. Feel free to pause the video. If I'm going too fast, you can pause the video. All right, then we drag another ellipse block underneath that. And let's check out what we've got. Okay, so it's kind of looking like the picture, but we need to fix some things. Right now, it's a big circle. We need to bring the width in a little bit and bring the height in a little bit. So we need to decrease the width and decrease the height just a tiny bit. Remember, it's x, y, w, h. So let's decrease that width from 400. I'm going to bring it down to about 250. If you want to use a slightly different number, that's totally fine. Now that brings it in quite a bit. And I also want to adjust the height to bring it inside this viewing space. So instead of 400, I'm going to just decrease it a little bit and make it 350. If you use slightly different numbers, that's totally fine as long as it looks pretty similar to this. Okay, go ahead and click finish. Moving on to bubble 4. Background. So this is a new block. Sometimes you'll want to fill the entire screen with a color. For that, you can use background. It covers everything on the screen with the color you choose. Do this. Run the code to see background work. So go ahead and click run. You should see a yellow background with a blue square. Next, change the background from yellow to orange. So go ahead and pause the video. Which block do you need to change? Change it from yellow to orange. All right. Hopefully you changed the block in line 3, background, yellow. Change that to orange. Now you have an orange background with a blue square. There is a challenge. There's a purple square that is covered up by the background. Can you change the order of the code so that you can see both the purple and blue squares? Go ahead and pause the video. It's going to be a lot of pausing the video. Go ahead and pause the video and try to figure it out on your own. Then you can come back and check your work. All right, I hope you paused the video. You're coming back. So hopefully what you did is you moved the background block to the top. Think about why that needs to be at the top. So it should be, the background should be drawn first, because anything that's drawn after the background, anything that's drawn before a background, it's going to get covered up. So initially, the computer was told, hey, draw a purple rectangle. So the computer drew the purple rectangle. But then the computer was told, hey, make the background orange. So it made the background orange, but it covered up the purple rectangle. Then it drew the blue rectangle. We want the background first, then we want the 2 rectangles on top. So we need to bring that background block to the very top. And there we go. Go ahead and click finish. Move on to bubble 5. My foot is falling asleep. Okay. Background block. Background will draw on top of everything already in your drawing. So it's important to think about the order of your code. Use background to make a black background behind the green circle. All right, go ahead and pause the video, try it yourself, and then check your work. Okay, so I hope you're here to check your work because you already tried it. You should have used a background block, dragged it to the top because we want the background to be drawn first so it doesn't cover up the circle. And that needs to change to the color black. And if you did it correctly, you should see a green circle with a black background. All right, finish. We're doing pretty good. I'm worried about 7. 7 might take a little extra time, make us go over the 15-minute mark, but we'll see. All right, 6. Again, you can pause the video. If I'm going too fast, you can pause the video, look at my code, and that'll help you out. Debug using 4 parameters. This program uses the 4-parameter version of rectangle and ellipse, right? X, Y, W, and H to draw a simple scene. Do this. Debug the program and correct the error so that the grass extends across the entire bottom. Let's see what's going on. All right, so we've got grass going halfway, but we want it to go all the way across the screen. Hint, you only have to change one number. Which parameter makes your rectangle wider? So again, think about the parameters for rectangle X, Y, W, H. Which parameter, X, Y, W, or H, is going to affect the length or the wideness, the width of a rectangle? Hopefully you said W, width, right? So we need to change the width of our green rectangle, which is going to be line 10, right? These nice comments that are included tell us what the code is for. The first one is to draw the sky, the second one is to draw the sun, and then the third section is to draw the grass. So that's where we need to focus. X, Y, W. We need to change the third value. Right now it's at 200. The width is 200, so it's only covering up half the screen. If I wanted to cover up the entire screen, what should the width be? Hopefully you said or thought 400. That is correct. Go ahead and reset and run. And now you should see that once you change it to 400, the width, it goes all the way across the screen because the length of the screen is 400 by 400. The length and width, the height and width, I guess I should say, goes all the way up to 400. All right, finish, continue. Okay, I'll go over these two. C, here you just need to choose one activity. I'll quickly go over A, B, and C is just doing your own thing, adding shapes, finishing the scene, changing colors, adding whatever you want to the scene. But A and B are about debugging. So let's check it out. A, debug hidden shapes. The code below should be making a pretty picture, but right now only one ellipse is showing up, the red one. Do this, debug the code so that the picture shows on the right. So we want this picture that we see over here on the right side to show up. Right now, what we see is the red ellipse. Let's go ahead and check out what's going on. In our code, here is our code for the red ellipse. It's all the way at the bottom. What do you think is happening? Why aren't we seeing all the other ellipses? The code is there, but what's going on? Hopefully you said something along the lines of it's being covered up by the red ellipse, right? The red ellipse is so big, and since it was the last thing to be drawn, it's covered everything else up, kind of like when you use a background. So we need to move the red all the way to the top. We want that to be the first thing to be drawn. That way the red, if you look at the picture, think about it as layers of cake, right? The red is the bottom layer, so that's going to go first. Then the orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, right? So red should be drawn first. You can click one block at a time and drag it all the way to the top, or you can try to highlight both of them and then drag them. But basically you want to move those last two blocks all the way to the top. Red, 200, 200, 400, 400. And now it's pushed all the way to the back so that it's not covering any of the other ellipses. Okay, so again, we just dragged those two blocks that were right here, the red and the ellipse. We moved them all the way to the top. Let's go ahead and check out B in case you wanted to do B. Let's see what's going on. Okay, so when the code below is run, nothing shows up. So I just click run, nothing showing up. Debug the code so an image shows up. Go ahead and pause the video, take a look at the code. What's going on? Why is nothing showing up? All right, hopefully you noticed that the X coordinate for all of these is 500, which means that they're being drawn, but they're being drawn all the way over here outside of that space where we can actually see things. So we need to change the X coordinates. We need to bring it back. Let's go ahead and change that first one. We probably want that first one to be right about that big black rectangle. If you look at our picture, this corner, we want that corner to be right about here. So maybe like 30. So I'm going to go ahead and say 30 for the X. Oops. And I'm going to go up by 10 for the next rectangle. 30, 40, 50, 60. And I'm only changing the X coordinates right now. 70, 80. Let's go ahead and check it out. All right, that's looking much better, right? They're all where they should be on the side. Now we just need to shift the squares down a little bit because they're all touching at the very top. So let's check out our coordinates. Y coordinate, we need to shift the Y coordinate. I'm going to keep the first rectangle at 50, but I'm going to increase everything else by 10. So 50, then 60, 70, 80. That way everything gets shifted. 90, 100. And that looks much better, right? So all we did is we shifted all the rectangles. We changed their X's and then we changed their Y's. All right, go ahead and click finish. If you decided to do C, that's just to finish your own scene. You can add whatever pictures, squares, circles to it to make your own scene. The last bubble that I want you to go over is bubble 8. This is going to be the bubble that I grade, so I'm not going to give you the solutions to this, but I'll go over the instructions. Here you need to debug this so that the cloud looks like the picture. Right now, the height is too big and the width is too small. So you need to look at the code that makes the cloud, draw sky, draw sun, draw grass, draw cloud, hint, 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 and think about which parameters do you need to change, X, Y, W, H, so that it's wider but shorter. All right. It should look similar to the picture, as close as you can to the picture. Once you finish this, if you haven't already, because you didn't finish in class, let me know, send me a message on Schoology so that I can check it and give you credit, right? But this is all you need to do. You just need to change 2 of these numbers here. You need to change 2 of these numbers to make the width bigger, but the height smaller. I'm kind of already giving you a hint. All right. If you really get stuck, send me a message and I'll help you out. But that is it for lesson 4. Pretty short and sweet. I will see you all next class. Bye, everyone.